This is Brianna Stewart's exit interview with the Seattle Storms, where she talks about prioritization, playing overseas in the offseason, and what she thinks her free agency is going to look like.
Hey, Stewie. I'm sure that you'll have a lot of time to really dissect this season and kind of go through that, but I'm really curious about your future. You know, just you being in going in the off season, you're going to be the biggest free agent in this market. Mm-hmm. Just as you sort of delve into, I'm not trying to ask you your like final plans, but what is going to kind of shape you about playing in the WNBA in general, coming back to the Storm? Just what types of thoughts do you have as you sort of start the off season?
Definitely, trying to kind of push this off as much as possible, especially just thinking about the free agency things. Wanting to make sure that I'm really locked in the moment of where we were now and playing and those type of things. To be honest, I don't know. That's really it, is I just don't know. I know that sooner than later I'm gonna go to Australia. I'm gonna play for Fenner in January, and we'll see what happens with the prioritization, which is a whole nother ball game. And then as free agency approaches in, I don't even know, January, February, whatever it is, we'll see. Obviously understanding that Seattle has done a lot for me, just that appreciation, and you can't help but think about, the way that Sue has been here her entire career, the way that the city is always has her back, and wanting that. So it'll be a decision that really Marta and I will talk about for probably the next however many months, and hopefully it'll become a lot clearer for me.
Hey, just the idea of you being like a trailblazer has really never been new to you. As it relates to prioritization, it feels like you're really now I don't know if you're the only one really talking about it, but you're the lead face sort of talking about it. Do you think others will sort of get on board with that? And just how do you feel about just kind of being out there sort of with that?
I think prioritization is something that needs to be talked about and addressed. I think that, obviously it's one of the biggest disconnects between players and the WNBA, like board of governors, things like that. Because, the fact of the matter is there's a lot of players going overseas. And I know probably the beginning of the WNBA season, it didn't seem like it, there wasn't a lot, but a lot of people started signing. And this is something that will affect the majority of the players in our league, and should be interesting.
How does the schedule line up in Turkey right now with when you would kind of expect the start of the WNBA season to be next year?
I think the schedule in Turkey, I don't know, but I think it goes through May. EuroLeague starts in October, finishes in April, but obviously the domestic leagues always finish after, so at some point after mid-April.
So I'm not sure.
No.
What did you learn from going through the free agency process this last offseason?
I think that, what I learned from free agency was just the fact that it really reminded me of being recruited in college is what it was. And just kind of being able to get insight and see how other franchises and organizations do things. Obviously, with Sue coming back, it was, obviously very, very sure that I was coming back to Seattle, but still able to test the waters and do that again.
Just before we head to the next question, we have about 10 more minutes, so we're going to take one from each in the room and then go to Zoom. If we have time for a follow-up, then we're going to do it big.
Each person. My thought is, given what happened
the ongoing situation with Brittany Griner. When you all go, did that give some heightened awareness of when you play overseas or anything like that?
Definitely. I think that, obviously we're all wishing that BG comes home sooner than later. Today is 202 days of her being wrongfully detained. And anytime, I think all of us have a moment throughout the day where it's just like, I cannot believe she's still there. Like, when is she going to come home? And yeah, I think that, if you look at players and where they've played previously, maybe you weren't really like thinking about your environment as much, and now you are, especially where you go play and countries that you're in. You want to make sure that, your safety is first, because even if we are professional basketball players and some of the top athletes in the world, anything can happen. And we see that with BG.
Stewie, getting into free agency, you've talked a lot this year about just the support, the culture of the Seattle Storm, and how many things they do that's outside of basketball that you really support and stand for as well. How does that compare to other organizations? The relationship you build, how supportive they are, and how much does what they do outside of basketball really help factor in that final decision?
Yeah, I think it definitely factors in a lot. I think that, when I think about the Storm and the owners, the front office, they've really had our backs since day one, especially, wanting to advocate on social issues and speaking up. And it's something that, they were one of the first organizations to do, and it seems like everyone else has kind of gotten behind their players. But it's an understanding that obviously we're professional basketball players. Obviously we're trying to win, but also we're trying to help move the needle in other ways than what we do on the basketball court. And they're behind us fully. So having that support and having that courage is something that's really special.
Let's move on to Zoom. Jackie Powell, please go ahead.
Hi, Stewie. Thanks for taking the time. I wanted to expand upon this idea of prioritization, which we were discussing before. I'm curious as to what you think a new TV deal for the WNBA could do to help the league and maybe address some of the issues that prioritization poses.
Yeah. Our TV deal isn't up until 2024. Is that right? It's like another year or something like that. But I think that, that's something that should be at the forefront of everyone's minds. Is just the fact that, seems like the last TV deal, if you compare it to other professional sports, women's soccer, we've definitely been underbid. And I think that, with the growing investment and interest in the WNBA, that's going to change a lot, because obviously TV deal, more money for salaries, more money to do things, charters, blah, blah, blah. It could change the game, and it could change the game in a number of ways. But just as we're continuing to add games, who knows, maybe the season is going to go a little bit longer, things like that. But more money means, you're not as worried about going overseas.
Jeffrey Brown, please go ahead.
Yeah, Stewie, I know you've obviously talked how much important it is with your relationship with Sue, but just also talk about with Jewell, because obviously she'll be on the Storm next season.
Yeah. Jewell and I have really grown together and grown up together. And just the way that, you see how the game went last night, I think that we were really trying to do whatever we could to continue our season and keep our playoff and championship hopes alive. She's someone that, I really love playing with. And I think that, just thinking about where we started when we were like 14, 15 to where we are now, it's, it definitely makes you think about, how exciting we could continue to be as we are entering our primes in our prime. It's a duo that's tough to stop.
Thank you. Sue Favor.
Hey, hi, Brianna. Sue here. Wondering, you've worked with Noe Quinn both as a teammate and as a coach. Can you talk to, her development as a coach? And obviously she had a couple of wrenches thrown at her this season as far as, changes in lineup and then adding Tina. Yet she got you guys to the semis. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Noe's been on really the fast track for her coaching career. The fact that she was a player here and then an assistant and then quickly became a head coach. I think it's amazing to be able to have a head coach who was a former player, just because they know the ins and outs. They've been through a majority of the things that the players are going through. And yeah, every season there's going to be some sort of adversity. And this season maybe more than others, but the way that she was able to kind of combat that, continue to bring us together, and just made it so we continue to fight. I think that, when you look at our team, we love coming in here every single day. We love to compete, and we love to have the opportunity to put it all out there on the floor. And Noe, was the big person to help create that drive. And just to see her development as a head coach, it's only going to continue.
Thank you.
Thank you. Christos, please go ahead.
That's good. So we're doing well, first of all. What would you like to carry from this season going to the next season? And what was the best advice from Sue to you through the years?
I think what I would like to continue to take from this season to next season is just my ability to make an impact on both ends. I think that, that's something that I can definitely do more of, especially, just taking on the challenges of having the harder matchup, and understanding, as a person who has success on offense, understanding what makes that success and trying to stop it from the opposing team. And the best advice Sue has gave me, I mean, probably to start working with Susan Borchert.
Okay, we have time for a couple more questions in the room.
I'm not sure if we got any questions for you, just about your game last night. You scored 42 points. It was your best game. Just your thoughts on that. Like, have you been able to process that? And also just as that relate to just where you have grown this season, just kind of doing whatever it takes.
Yeah, that was really my mindset, was just trying to do whatever it takes to keep us going. Whether that was actually scoring or, distributing whatever the team needed. And it's a little bit disappointing because it's like, it still feels like it wasn't enough, even though it was a lot. But no matter what, just making sure to have left it all out on the floor, and not stopping for the entire game.
Time for one last question in the room.
You've talked about not knowing what the offseason is going to hold for you, but you have such a love and passion for this Storm team. There's not a ton that's promised in terms of players' contracts next season. So how do you just feel about the Storm's future right now? Kind of what are the discussions with the team about how to uphold really the standard that you guys and Sue have put in place here?
Yeah. I think the standard is more like the foundation of the Storm. and everybody knows that, when you come here, we're team oriented. We enjoy one another, and we like to have fun, and really making sure that the people that are brought in here can kind of live up to those standards. And it is interesting because there is so many unknowns with the free agents on our team. But I think, speaking for, I think it's everybody except Jewell and Sadie's. We all love playing for this organization, and we all love playing with one another. So, I mean, once again, I'm happy that I'm not the GM and I don't have to do this, because it sounds like a lot.
All right, just a reminder that the 42 points that Stewie scored last night tied for the most in a playoff game. And Stewie's gonna be playing for Fenerbahce in Turkey, and she will also play in Australia for US team. Thank you, Stewie.
Thanks. All right, see you guys.
This is the exit interviews with Jewell Lloyd. She spoke pretty candidly about being the leader coming into this team, what she plans to do to help the Storm with free agency, and how she plans to grow her game. Hope you enjoy.
As Stewie was just talking about, a number of free agents going into this offseason. You and Sadie's the only couple players under contract. A little different situation than last year. You and Stewie were kind of going through this process together. Do you kind of give her space to make that decision on her own? Do you do any sort of recruiting, or how do you plan to approach that?
Yeah, I mean, we understood that last season as well, what this season could be like after. So we understood the pros and cons, our goals, things like that. So coming into this offseason, it's the same thing. I mean, we talk all the time. So I figured, we'll talk more. Right now, we're just trying to digest everything that just happened. But at the end of the day, I mean, she'll make the best decision for her and her family. Regardless, I know, she stays here, she leaves, whatever. Like she's family, so I know that's solid. But obviously, I think we want to stay together as much as possible. But like I said, we're both a little bit older now. She has a family. Things in my life has changed too, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, we'll have some time to digest that, but I don't think we're thinking about that immediately right now.
Hey, Jewell, just your off season looks like what? I mean, obviously we know that you're heading to the Worlds, but then after that, you plan to do what?
Rest. Yeah, rest. I've dedicated my time to kind of be with my family. I don't plan on playing overseas. I'm taking the time for me. So, yeah.
Do you go back to college like you did before? Do you do any?
I'll be back
coaching?
in Lincolnwood. Coaching, yeah, it's not for me. But I'll be around basketball, helping out as many people as I can. Usually there's a couple, college kids that reach out and I talk to them. But, I'm always willing to help the next generation. But at the same time, I deserve some rest.
Jewell, obviously, I think every player starts out goal of the season to win the championship. You didn't do that, but when you look back on the season, what's there for you?
I think the last two seasons, for me personally, it was all about growth. Whether it was just, mentally, physically, emotionally, whatever it is, I think it was about growth. And sometimes you don't always feel that because you don't always see it right in that moment. But, I look back at last season, I saw myself develop in certain ways. This season, I felt the same thing, whether the first series, even this series, a lot of growth. So, obviously, like you said, our goal was to win a championship. We didn't do that, but, the thing that I've been telling myself all season is, I'm not defined by wins and losses, points, media. I'm created and made and defined by the God who created me. So, if I could be solid in that and understand that kind of changes your perspective on a lot of the material things and basketball in general.
So much has happened with the WNBA. I mean, in terms of where this league is going, superstars retiring, and you all kind of taking the mantle. Have you just thought about your growth as a leader and how you are perceived as that?
Yeah, I think I've been very fortunate to have played with Sue and learned from one of the best leaders of all time. She being able to watch her and see how she does things. Same with I came into a team full of veterans, so even watching Alicia Clark, Jenna O'Hay, those guys were very vocal and all led different ways and in different times when we need them. So for me and Stewie, it's the same thing. We've been able to watch a lot of great people, learn a lot, and then find ways that we can lead in our way. And a lot of times I'm not always super vocal, but when I'm vocal, I think that's when they know I'm being serious. But it's definitely for me to lead by example. But I think as I've become a veteran on this team and in this league, be more open to talk a little bit more when people need it. I think that's something that sometimes it's hard to do. At the same time, I think it's definitely needed. So, I think I've learned that aspect of leadership, but you're always evolving and growing. So I think leaders, they keep growing too. So that's kind of what I want to do.
You talked about evolving and growing. You had a phenomenal season, but what are ways that you seek to grow, whether that be mental side of your game or physically, in preparation for next season?
I feel like every year I come in and I got better at something. That's kind of always my mindset, is to come back and always get better. I never want to plateau, regardless what it is, whether it's on the court, off the court. I want to keep getting better. And for me, I think I said this at the beginning of the year, as well as I just want to continue to be a master of my craft, execute certain things that I want to do, whether it's just getting better at, left hand layups or pull ups, or just, finding the 4 different moves that I love to do and just really be efficient in that. And that's the evolution of my game. It's just to become a master of my craft.
And I'm just curious, with so much being one of kind of the centerfolds for next season, being under contract, how much conversation will you be having? How much input will you have on kind of the offseason happenings for the Seattle Storm this year?
I think it's important, that your top players have conversations about that. I mean, we're the ones in the locker room and playing, and we have an eye of the players who won. I think it needs to be very open dialogue. It should be, and that's what you want with an organization, coaches, whatever. It's to have input on things. Obviously, I'm not the one signing people or paying them, but at the same time, you want to make sure that's a good fit for everyone. So I'll do my part. Excuse me, when asked. At the same time, I'm going to allow coaches to be coaches and GMs to be GMs, but I definitely will have a say when the conversation comes up. But I just want to have a good teammates and continue to just have an impact in the world of basketball.
Along the lines of that question, you obviously have some ability to add with Bree and Sue retiring, maybe a need to add. Do you want to go out and recruit players to come here?
Excuse me. I think I'm at a place now where I feel like people want to play with me, play with Stewie, play here, have a taste of what we had. Obviously, you do have to recruit a little bit, the players that you want, just like anything else. You're in the classroom and everyone making group projects, you're looking across the room like, who can I get? It's the same thing. It hasn't changed, right? Like, you want to plant that seed, hey, next week got a group project, like, don't forget about me, kind of thing. So, you hinted out, but I think, the way people play in the season, people, want to gravitate towards that. And, it helps when you're, I feel like I'm a pretty decent person too. So, that plays a long way too. But at the same time, I'm gonna let things happen organically and naturally. I'm not a college recruiter. If people want to play with me, we'll talk about it, have a conversation about it. If it makes sense, then okay. If it doesn't make sense, all right. But I think that's just the beauty of sports in general. You find players you want to play with, and hopefully everything aligns. Then you go play with them. You have a chance to play with them. So hopefully people have seen what I can do and see what we do here and want to be a part of that. If not, then we'll find someone who wants to be a part of it.
Do you think that in like year 8, that you'll have to maybe be more sort of vocal that way, that it'll, we don't know what's going to happen with Stewie, but it could be your team, and however that feels to you, but it could be sort of your team.
Yeah, I've had these moments before. There's a lot of teams that I've been on where I've been the leader. I've been that player. So it's not anything new. I just haven't had to do it here. Just because I haven't had to do it here doesn't mean I can't. I've been waiting, I've been studying, I've been mentored by, Sue and everyone else. So I think I'm ready to do that. I know I can. So for me, it's nothing new. It may be new for you guys, but when my name's called, I'm ready to take that challenge.
Is it interesting that the league has also kind of maybe evolved to like allow you guys to like do that? It was Sue who like talked about it that way, that there was a lot of ISOs in that series, and it seems that this league, whereas maybe 10 20 years ago wasn't that way, but now a two guard can be the like lead person on the team.
Yeah, I mean, the game has changed. A lot of players are able to go one-on-one. They're comfortable doing that. They're able to, I mean, the more you work in your game, a lot of things open up. And I think we've seen that obviously starting even young as AAU. A lot of girls are just in the gym, right? The game is going faster. People are getting stronger. Handles, shooting ability, playmaking, all those things. And to me, that's just playing basketball. To me, that's my comfort. In a lot of ways, is how I grew up playing the ball. Play at the parks, you own your yard, and if you're hot, you're hot. You move the ball around, you play fast. So yeah, I mean, just the evolution of the game, it's changed a little bit. Obviously, you could even look at the NBA, with Steph Curry and things like that. It's not a traditional quote unquote point guard, but it's just people who can make plays. And I think because the game is so fast, you need a lot of people on your team that can make plays. Yeah, I mean, it's just basketball. At the end of the day, it's basketball, and I like to play basketball.
We're gonna move on to Zoom. Jeff Brown, please go ahead.
Yeah, Jewell, you've kind of touched on this about already, but now with Sue Bird retiring, you are the longest tenured Seattle Storm player. And so I guess just to kind of talk about what you've learned from Sue to kind of take over that leadership.
Yeah, that's a little weird, to be honest with you. Just because I came in and I was like the youngest person in the league with Sue, and now she's on to bigger and better things, and I'm still here. So yeah, I mean, it's learning from Sue is the biggest thing that I've always said, that she never gets too high, never gets too low, and that's important to have that mindset. A lot of things happen, a lot of adversity happens in your life, a lot of adversity happens on the court, and you got to be able to maintain your emotions and redirect it and execute. And so that's kind of where my mind is a lot of people talk a lot of people seem to have good ideas, but it's all about execution, and that's something that I'm focusing on for from here on out.
And one more real quick, because lately you haven't been going overseas to play overseas in the off season, would you be excited about the WNBA continue? Next year it's going to 40 games, and like, would you be excited about it going to like 50 or more than 50 games, and obviously pay increasing and stuff like that?
For me, I just want to have the ability to play as many games as I can. One, just because the maximize your opportunities with you never know what's going to happen. That's kind of where my mind is. If whatever the number of games is, we want to. I want to play just because I know, one, like I said, I love the game of basketball, but also it's bigger than basketball. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Just obviously where the game is now and the level and talent, then we should get paid more. So obviously there's factors in that, but I mean, my job is to go out and play a game that I love and compete hard, and let everything else kind of follow through that. But yeah, I mean, playing overseas has nothing to do to me with for me. I play some of the greatest basketball in the offseason anyway against great guys, so I'm getting good competition, so it doesn't really matter. I'm ready when season starts regardless.
Awesome. Thank
Jackie
you.
Jackie Powell, please.
Hi, Jewell. Thanks for being here. When we get to this time of the year with the WNBA season and the playoffs wrapping up, I'm curious as to what you believe is the state of pro women's basketball in this country right now, and what you think is going to be top of mind as we move past the 2022 calendar year into 2023.
I mean, watching our series, you saw a lot of high IQ basketball, a lot of playmaking, a lot of ISOs. You just see the evolution of the game in general. I mean, it was I told someone the other day, like, it was like an opera. It has so much up and down drama throughout the whole game. Every game was different, but every game had that dramatic effect and feel. And I mean, hopefully it's more offense, a little less defense. I think it's just harder to guard people now. I mean, everything's so much faster, but I think it's just our series was just entertaining. It's entertainment because we have a lot of great players making good shots, and I think that's where this league has to go. Is you got to have players that are gonna have more, you know, even the matchup between Stewie and Asia. Like, when's the last time we've seen that being promoted and talked about? More rivalry, more stuff. I mean, that stuff needs to be promoted as much as possible because it's what we feel it's what's happening. It's what people want to see, and it gives a game a little bit more touch. And so I think we see that more often. More talk about matchups. It just needs more character. I think we saw all those things in our series, and I think that's going to help carry this league and see the standard of what this league could be every single night.
Thank you.
Do you have any thoughts on the prioritization issue and just how might that affect your league? I mean, obviously for like, this league is kind of so fascinating because there's like some people it's a big thing, people on your team, and then others it's like that thing.
Yeah, I think if we were if we were paid the way we should be paid, a lot of people wouldn't have to go overseas. If things, you could go, a lot of things can be different. A lot of people play overseas because they need to support their families. They need the extra cash. They need, whatever it is. So I think it affects people depending on where their lives are at in that moment, because it does kind of put a simulation on your lifestyle. If a regular person had 3 jobs, no one's complaining. Like, you say, oh, you could work 3 jobs because you want the extra money, you want this, you want, but for us, we have 2 jobs. Now it's like, oh, I don't know if you could do it. So that's kind of how my mind is. Like, everyone else could work 3 and 4 jobs and you're a hard-working American, For us, it's like, oh, like, you're selfish, thinking about yourself. So that's kind of why I see it, but I understand the business aspect of it too. I just, wish if you want to stay in America and have this thing, then you got to put the money where your mouth is. We deserve better. We deserve more. I think we've taken steps towards making those shifts, but I don't know. Like I said, every other American, you work 2 jobs. Everyone's applauding you. You're a hard worker. For us, we get looked at a little differently. We're like the only league that has that. So I don't know. That's kind of how I see it. Cool. Yeah.
This is Gabby Williams' exit interviews with the Seattle Storm.
Right, we can start here with Gabby.
Hey, Gabby, what are the emotions in the wake of last night and sort of everything that was going on?
Yeah, of course, disappointment. And we really wanted to get it for Sue and Bree, of course, more than anything. So I had emotions I felt as a fan, as like not just as their teammates, but just like as the little girl who grew up watching them. Of course, getting to know Bree these last couple of years overseas, and she's become like family to me. And then growing up watching Sue signing to UConn because there was a Sue Bird there and what she's done for the game. So there was also that feeling of like, oh, that was the last time I'll see them play. And I think that was the biggest heartbreak for me.
We've been talking a lot today with people about prioritization. What do you know about your schedule in France next year and how it might line up with the start of the WNBA season?
Complicated. I think the prioritization rule was something that I don't think people realized. I realized as soon as it was going on. I felt like I was in the twilight zone. Does anyone not realize what this is actually going to do? So I think I knew, because I knew for players like me what it would do. No, the money doesn't touch what we make in Europe. That's just the truth of it. I'm young. I have to make those kinds of decisions. I hope it doesn't bite too many teams in the back later on, but it might. My schedule is not definitive right now. It all, of course, depends on playoffs. I would love to return to the WNBA, but what's best for my career, what the WNBA decided to do to players like me, makes it complicated.
Do you think that there is a chance that teams will take a look at your situation and maybe shy away from that?
Yeah, for sure. I'm also shying away from the W because teams aren't touching what I'm making in Europe. So, yeah.
Yeah. But obviously it sounds like as if you want to continue playing in this league, but just kind of have to figure it out, sort of navigate how that could happen.
We'll see as the time comes. I know there are some teams who are okay with it, teams who are not. Unfortunately, the decision was made. It was a blanket decision for the entire team, so it doesn't give any teams flexibility to make that decision on their own, and I think that's the problem.
Can you just talk about your game this season? And early in the year, we were able to talk, and you just said you felt more confident in yourself, the game that you had overseas, and just growing in your game. What were some peaks of the season for you, and in what areas do you think you grew the most?
I think the beginning of the season was a bit difficult to, of course, coming to the team new, not having played position 3 in the WNBA, so maybe teams weren't familiar, like, with me, getting to know my teammates getting to know what I get to do, staff and everything. But I think as the team kind of learned my game and learned my skill set, it became much easier for me. And I think I got rolling, and I definitely felt more comfortable, felt more confident. I give a big props to like my teammates and the staff for like staying confident in me and helping me through that. And I think I got rolling second half of the season and just got to show my ability to create on offense. Of course, my defense is something that I've kind of been known for, but getting to like use my skill set and having fun on the court was a huge thing for me. And when you're having fun, you play better and the energy is better, all of that. And I think that just started, to get going once I got more comfortable on the team.
If I could take my media hat off and just say, as a fan, the game would really miss, the WNBA would really miss players like you, players like Stewie, because of this prioritization clause. What actively are you players doing to speak with the WNBA about remedying this? Or what other ways could people just speak out to possibly change that in the future?
I think just getting the chance of you guys asking me about it is a huge thing. I get to be honest about it. My situation in Chicago last year, the owner asked me to sacrifice $50K for Olympics plus more money. Like, get out of here. It's this, just being asked about it, to be vocal about it, to show that I'm not in agreement with it. I'm sorry. Of course, I understand maybe why, but no, I don't agree with it. I think there's a lot of players who feel the same way. It's a conversation that we have to have as a union, as players amongst each other. We have to have these conversations with our owners. We have to have these conversations with our representatives and our executive committee. I think maybe we weren't as vocal about it or as informed about it when the rule was being made, and maybe having the opportunity to re-vote. I think it's next November is going to be huge for us. I'm sure not every single player is in agreement with me, and I'm not speaking for anybody else besides myself when I talk about the prioritization rule, but we have to be more vocal about how we feel.
Yeah, just staying on that, if the WNBA or any sports franchise is about playing the best players, and the owners start seeing the players such as yourself that are part of that great product are not playing in their league, is that something that they will have to do? Because players can only do so much. At some point, it's about the product.
Yeah, I think it's about the product. Especially when you have players like a Stewie, like a Jonquil Jones, like a Emma Meesman, these players who are huge, and you're making 10 times as much in Europe. Like, imagine the league without players like these. But also, all it is doing is just taking money away from players who already should be making more, I think, as well, with the penalization and all that stuff, the suspensions, just taking money out of our pockets too at the end of the day. And I don't agree with that.
And then just how empowering is it for yourself to now be in this situation as a woman of color, to be able to say, this is my worth. And if you're not going to give me that worth, I'm going to go over here?
It's a business decision. I think the league wanted to turn it into a business. You know, that was the idea. Okay, we want to grow this league, so you guys have to be here because it's a business. But we want you to sacrifice everything. We want you to sacrifice your money. We want you to sacrifice your career and longevity for us. So, you know, it's not allowed to be a business for us. But I'm making a business decision too. I'm 25. I'm making as much money as I can until my body doesn't let me anymore, you know? So I have a window. I have to use it in the most economical way possible. And that's making more money overseas.
Gabby, what is your true position that if, you know, you were like, hey, we're going to build a franchise around you, where do you actually want to play?
Positionless. Positionless. I think, yeah, if a team were to, that's part of my game, you know? Of course, I feel like the 3 is my true position because I only say that because it allows me to be more flexible. Being at the 4, you know, only having to like screen, roll, pop, and everything, it limited me. Of course, that experiment in Chicago with me at the point guard. You know, I just talked with Noe, and she was just like, you know, people thought you were point guard because you had the properties of a point guard. They thought you were 4 because you had the properties of 4, but it doesn't mean that is my true position. So if we were to create a position, it would just be the stretch 1, 2, 3, 4, I guess. Just being able to, and that's where I think I got going in the second half of this season, is when, you know, the staff kind of saw that in me, and they did a great job of utilizing me in that way, of letting me be positionless, letting me flow. I think that's why I work so well in turning defense into offense, because that's when basketball becomes positionless.
And what would happen if big names like yourself and Stewie and would say, hey, we're not going to play until you fix this immediately? We know revoting is this time around prioritization, but we're not going to start the 2023 season until this is fixed.
Thanks for calling me a big name. I don't think mine would matter as much as a Stewie or a Jonquil, but that would be huge. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Again, when I speak about prioritization, I know not everyone agrees with what I'm saying. This is just my personal experience with it. This is how it affects my career, and I'm explaining why I made that decision. As many big names, I think it does help my situation selfishly, that I'm not the only person in this position. So yeah, I feel more confident having other players who are like, I don't feel like I'm crazy, you know, knowing that other players are going kind of through similar things.
Moving on to Zoom, Jeff Brown, please go ahead.
Yeah, Gabby, I think it was either late regular season or maybe even the Washington series, but I remember you were kind of talking, I think you were sitting with Stewie and you were kind of talking about being a little bit sad because the season was almost over and you were just really feeling like you guys were just starting to gel, I think, together. You know, obviously both of you and Stewie are free agents. Like, did you look at this now as like a finality or something that could just be the beginning of something?
I'm not speaking of like Seattle specifically, but I think just overall my vision of me in the WNBA really changed thanks to my year in Seattle. Yeah, it was complicated in Chicago, and it is a big reason why I was kind of like, well, I'm not going to sacrifice making 3-4 times as much money for this, you know? But now after having this year, after having so much fun in Seattle, getting to play the basketball I kind of wanted to play, growing as a player, playing with amazing teammates in front of amazing fans, staff being taken care of the way it was, it did change my outlook on the W in general. And it is a league that I do wish to stay a part of course, if I'm able to.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Did you say, okay, hi, Gabby, thanks for being here. I just wanted to get you to clarify on the vote that's happening next November. What is that a vote for? I
do not feel comfortable answering that question because I don't want to give any wrong misinformation.
Okay, that's fine. I appreciate that. Now, going back to prioritization, I'm curious what you think a new TV deal for the WNBA could do for this league to maybe help address the issues that prioritization poses.
For sure. I think a TV deal is huge. If the league wants us to prioritize them, they need to prioritize us as well, and that's signing those big deals. That's, you know, getting those contracts with airlines, any marketing, all those deals. And I know the league wants to do that, and their idea was, well, you guys got to meet us halfway and be here if we're going to do that for you. But again, money doesn't come out of thin air. I think there is so many people who are watching the WNBA compared to other sports that we deserve to have. I'm not speaking about prioritization or like what the owners are doing. I know the owners are doing all they can. But just in general, as like a society or as an atmosphere, we deserve to be on TV more. And I think we will be watched more. You just have to give us that visibility.
Right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Do we have more questions in the room?
Hey, I think it was last night that in terms of Chelsea, it was Noe who said, I don't think there's anybody on the planet who can guard her. In this past week, you had a really good look at what's going, at a Chelsea. Just what is going on with her and the way she's been playing in this postseason?
She's an insane player to guard. I can tell you, excuse me. It was a moment for me where I think I grew a lot as a player. Like I've felt like I've always gotten the assignment of guarding the best player, but I've never had so much difficulty as I have with Chelsea. And I felt like I was playing some of the great defense of my life, and she's still getting those shots up. And I think there were, I had my moments. I got to turn it over, got the ball out of her hands, whatever, got a good contest here and there. But I really had to improve. Like she made me become better as a defender. I'm almost like, obviously I'm not thankful for the loss, but I'm almost like looking forward to that assignment because I know it's a challenge and I'm going to become better at the end of the day from it, even if it's not fun, even if it's frustrating. But she is the most difficulty I've had guarding a player.
All right, thank you everyone. Just a reminder, Gabby is going to be playing for Asvel in France and also in the World Cup with France. Thank you, Gabby.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.